The opinions expressed on this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Cable 14, its sponsors, or its shareholders, Cogeco Cable, Shaw Cable, and Source Cable Limited.
Welcome to Council Edition for Wednesday, October the 3rd. I'm Doug Farraway. On today's show, from a HEC-Fi rebirth to casino angst and breaking news from City Hall, our guest is Ward 4 Councillor Sam Merulla. So let's begin with the breaking news. I would have thought in 2012 that we wouldn't need to have an accessibility discussion at today's GIC regarding City Hall, because I'm sure a lot of constituents in this town thought, well, we just did massive renovations, we just reopened City Hall. What do you mean there's accessibility issues? Tell us about that debate.
Well, again, we reopened City Hall as a renovated, historically significant building. So obviously the fact that it's historically significant means that there were some issues surrounding accessibility that date back to the 1950s. Having said that, we are faced with legislation that's looming, not only from the public perspective, but also from the private perspective. So we have hundreds of millions of dollars that we're going to have to spend to make our buildings, as well as the city as a whole, accessible, and so does the private sector. So with that legislation comes responsibility. And today we had a motion that was brought forward that basically focuses in on just the council chambers and any other committee meeting that the public access, which I believe is a reasonable request, and sends out a message, a symbolic one at that, because it's such a small fraction of how much we will have to do in the future, but one that I think speaks volumes in making us as accessible as possible for those people with disabilities.
It's one of those, it's going to be an expensive proposition, first of all. And it's not just City Hall, it's also the HSR. It's the darts fleet as well. And the law has been passed. It's a provincial law. We have to make everything as absolutely accessible as we possibly can. But Sam, it's another tens of millions of dollars proposition on the property tax base of the city of Hamilton.
And yet another example of provincial legislation that is imposed on municipalities without the attached revenue to meet those objectives. And
it's well-meaning legislation.
Oh, absolutely, one that I support. But I think one that has to be thought out thoroughly, not only from the provincial perspective, but also the federal government. I think a lot of us forget that we even have a federal government, with all the focus being on City Hall. And really, sometimes we forget there's even a provincial government. As I've always said, we are the most efficiently run government, but also the most scrutinized, and I have no problem with that. But when you look at how much you pay in taxes, 98% of the taxes that you pay, whether it be income tax, HST, or others, you're paying to the provincial and federal governments. Only 2% is coming to the municipal coffers, and for that you get 250 services. And over and above that, we're actually paying $120 million operating towards provincially mandated programs. And this, on a capital perspective, is just another added burden for the city, but one that, as you've mentioned, and I agree, needs to be done.
We've discussed that issue numerous times. We even had a special with Larry Deanne early in the summer. But I now get the sense from council that, okay, whoa, going to war with anybody over this issue is not necessarily going to get any dough out of Queen's Park. Let's go to them with facts and figures and a calm approach. Do I get that sense correctly?
Well, that's exactly what I proposed, and I proposed it at the Fairness to Hamilton Committee just last week, and I did have an agenda review meeting with our city manager, Chris Murray. In that discussion, we had a very fruitful discussion, and one that I think I've come out and basically said, let's wave the flag on partisanship, even though I don't feel I've been overly partisan. I think, frankly, my only partisanship is to that of the people of Hamilton. And whether it be even Andrea, as Premier, if she were proposing these draconian types of cuts, I'd be attacking her quite vigilantly, even more so, because I would expect more from her. But in this case, it's Dol McGuinty, and it happens to be the Liberal Party. And what they've done to this city is something that needs to be understood, and something that we need to put together as an argument to the province, not only from a political perspective, but also from a bureaucratic one, in order to not only speak or be vocal on the problem, but provide the solutions. Because we do have a great deal of talent within our bureaucracy, and we know how to deal with the issue. We just need the province to follow suit.
A great line came to me while you were talking, so I have to share it with everybody, and then they'll be the judge. But you could have written an over 1,000 word, a novel, and we would have called it War and Peace, because you were the first one to hurl the word war at the Dalton McGuinty government. But now there's the realization that isn't necessarily going to work. We have to go there. We have to have Hamilton Days. We have to send the message that we've been treated unfairly while some communities around us have not. The GTA communities have not, and you've made that case before. On another issue, something you raised over 12 months ago, and I'm going to go back in time, but HEC-5 was bleeding out of ears, nostrils. It was bleeding Hamilton money. It was bleeding taxpayer money. And you're the guy who stepped forward at a certain point in time and said, enough is enough already. We need to take over that management of HEC-5, and we need to find a different way forward. Take us back. If I didn't get all the history correct, because maybe I'm praising you too much, you'll correct me. But it seems to me it was Sam Merulla who said, enough is enough. There has to be a better way.
I did initiate it, and looking back, it was just after the election of 2010, where we were made aware of an $11 million deficit at HEC-5. At that time, that's something that doubled, if not even tripled, some of the subsidies that we encountered in the past. So at that point, I believed that really that was a straw that broke the camel's back. So at which time, I sent out a press release as well as a notice of motion that we audit the process, that we audit HEC-5, but that we also dissolve the HEC-5 board, because it was really an unusual board, one that was a hybrid between the city and a private type of entity, but yet it was a unique but very awkward type of setup. So my understanding at that point was that I would pursue an endeavor that would look at either being private or being public, that there really shouldn't be a hybrid model of any kind. You're either in or you're out. So as a direct result of that, we did initiate an audit process through KPMG. Conclusions weren't flattering. So in essence, I was correct in my conclusion that something needed to be done. And in doing so, we created an interim, after dissolving the board, we created an interim body, which Mayor Bertina, Councillors Collins, Partridge, Farr, and myself were the interim members. And we cut the deficit, or cut the actual subsidy in half, all within about a year and a half, and we've even decreased it even further now. Now we're in a situation that we went out for an RFP process, or first the RFI process, so the request for interest, and then ultimately the RFP, or request for proposals. Those came back, and the interest surprised everyone. We had international, significant parties interested in running our facilities.
Huge companies.
Massive.
Wanted to run Hamilton's properties.
And ultimately, a hybrid of the private sector came together, which in essence is what we approved and agreed upon, which will see a scale, based on a scale, even more savings down the road. And I commend them for that.
And you should be commended for drawing the line in the sand, because it just was bleeding. And I was there in the beginning, Sam. As you'll recall, I've been around a little bit. And in the beginning, there was even scandal in the very early days of HEC-5, and they had to come together and they created that hybrid at that point in time. It's had quite the checkered past, and now it is in the past. Last week, Council approving Live Nation. I can't remember the Philadelphia group's name.
Global Spectrum.
Global Spectrum, and of course, Carmen's will run the convention center, and I believe that goes into place April 30th or April the 1st?
That's good. Right now, at this point, they're just simply going to sign the, go through the details of the contract, and it'll be signed off effectively in April.
But the beautiful thing is that people came here and had tremendous interest in those properties, which I think has to give the city a little bit of confidence, in the downtown a little bit of confidence.
I tell you, Doug, that's interesting you should say that, because I find that in everything we do at the city. I think our biggest problem in this city are people that were born and raised here who can't see past their toes. We live in one of the best cities in the world, by far. And I continually say that to people. And when I travel, I look and I analyze cities, and I always ask, whatever city I go to, I always ask the taxi drivers, bring me to the worst parts of your city. Sometimes I can't even get someone to agree to do that for me because of the danger associated with it. For the most part, they do. And I say to myself, we can compare cities all you want, and we can claim that cities are metropolitan and wonderful. But one thing I can say for certain, I have never encountered some of the bad cities I've been in. I never encountered anything in Hamilton that even remotely resembled some of the bad parts of American cities or other Canadian cities for that matter. And I say to people, recognize what you're criticizing before you're criticizing it, and focusing on the positives, and let's try to work on the negatives that do exist, because by far our foundation is one of the best in the entire world, and I say that with a great deal of confidence. And I just hope and I wish people would see what others see. When people come from Toronto and they visit the city, people come from Europe and they visit the city, they think, wow, this is a gorgeous city, whether it be our waterfront or whether it be our escarpment, whether it be the beauty of the green, of how green we are from the escarpment view. It is
Who has a natural harbor like ours in this country outside of Vancouver and Halifax and St. John's? But for an interior port, who has an escarpment like we have?
Contrasted,
who has a beach like we have overlooking? There's so much opportunity and so much here.
But already,
and
that's the thing.
And it's a great point you raise, because Hamiltonians have to remind themselves that other cities who came from the same background as ours, like Pittsburgh, have recreated themselves. Or a suburb of New York City itself, which is now one of the trendiest places in all of North America, is Brooklyn.
Yes.
If Brooklyn can do it, the worst of Hamilton can do it.
And we're going through that renaissance now. And
I should be working for economic development.
Having been born and raised in the city, I see it from other people that are very negative. But then meeting so many people coming from outside of the city, and as newcomers, new residents of the east end of Hamilton or just the city as a whole, or people wanting to invest, they see something that people that were born and raised here don't see. And I just want to give people that inkling to give your head a shake. This is one of the best cities in the world. Maybe it's because we're in the shadows of the big smoke. I'm not sure. Maybe that fact that we're so close to Toronto. But if Boston can be so close to New York and be so vibrant and great, Hamilton can do that in the shadows of Toronto.
Well, a lot of people from Toronto are finding Hamilton and loving their experience here, from super crawls to the jobs that they're creating, and they are shocked because of the green canopy, as you mentioned already. Now, to a conundrum, perhaps, and that is the great casino debate, which has now been described as virulent, I suppose, as the Ivor Wynne West Harbour debate.
Not even close.
I thought the stadium was much more virulent. We're not there yet for the casino.
Nor are we going to get there. To be quite frank,
Are you anticipating my questions?
Kind of. I am actually, but go ahead. Sorry. What was the question?
Let me ask you this. You wanted a referendum and put it off for 2 years. The OLG has clearly said to Hamilton, no, we want a decision sooner than later. We can't wait for a referendum. All right, that door shuts. You and Councillor McCaddy then basically say, we're for Flamborough, that's it, let's move on, let's not talk. And some of your colleagues said, whoa, wait a second, let's at least discuss what's coming our way. Because until we know what the province is going to do about Flamborough and the slots and Windsor and Fort Erie, we're kind of in a limbo at this point in time. Can we afford, Sam Merulla, to not debate a casino, whether we're for or against, and where it might possibly be, knowing that Flamborough may be shut down, may die, all on its own because of a provincial policy?
Just to clarify the whole issue, because sometimes in the city there's a difference between the facts of the issue rather than the fiction. We as a council already have a decision.
Yes.
Contrary to what people have read, we're in no way vacillating from that position. Our position is quite clear. Our preference is Flamborough, and at the same rate, try to protect the horse race industry. We supported that back in April, so we were way ahead of the curve.
And it was unanimous.
And by far, we were ahead of the curve by any other municipality in Ontario, because we made a definitive choice. In that motion, however, there is a notwithstanding clause, per se, that allows for other discussion. And back in June, after meeting with the horse race industry, it came to mind that potentially we need to get ahead of this issue. So I brought forward a notice of motion that we should be debating a referendum because at present we have acceptance of a Flamborough slots and horse race industry. We don't have acceptance of a casino yet, full-fledged casino that includes tables. So it's incumbent of us to look back in history and look at 1997 as an example. 64% of the old city proper of Hamilton voted against the casino. It would be irresponsible for us not to gauge that or refer back to it. So we need to look at that. We also need to debate whether or not we want to go from slots to a full-fledged casino. So the question is not where is this casino going to be located. The question is, do we want a full-fledged casino? Because we've already made a decision. Flamborough's our choice. So I understand that sometimes things get put out of perspective, but truly that's where we stand presently. The only pending motion we have was my referendum motion, which clearly was answered, and they said no, which is unfortunate, that they wouldn't allow the democratic process to prevail. So now we have to, we set up a new committee led by Mayor Bettina, which I'm part of, and I look forward to making Flamborough the best site of a casino, because I support a casino in Hamilton in Flamborough.
Given that we support that, and it was a unanimous vote, I was there, I recollect, that's
standing
the stance.
recorded.
That's the stance. But within 2 weeks, Minister McMeekin will be coming back with proposals from the horse racing industry, and everyone who is concerned. The agribusiness will take a hammer blow if Flamborough Downs shuts down and the horse racing industry goes away in southern Ontario.
And on that point, keep in mind, everyone's so focused on the casino issue. 300 jobs, I think they're claiming at the casino. The horse race industry in Hamilton, from an agricultural perspective, in the economy, is worth over $1 billion in the economy, and 3,000 jobs related to the horse race industry in primary and secondary employment. So people are talking about 1/10 of the jobs at a casino downtown, and they're allowing the economy to be hit and impacted by over $1 billion, with 3,000 jobs being lost, and everyone, again, not looking beyond their toes.
But we have to be in position, because this is a Dalton McGuinty government initiative that will hurt the communities I mentioned before, including Hamilton, if Great Canadian Gaming says, that's it, we can't operate this facility, and they have to move elsewhere, another jurisdiction. Because, Sam, now the impact is a direct impact of $4.5 million that comes into the tax rolls that we desperately need.
Okay, but I'm also confident. Revenue. I'm also confident.
Yes.
That the Great Canadian Gaming Corporation, which is a significant corporate entity,
yes,
and trades publicly, is going to invest or protect their over $100 million investment at that site. So, the fact that we support a Flamborough casino suggests that they're going to protect that $100 million investment. So, if anyone's of the belief that they're not going to put a bid in with Flamborough, knowing they have a $100 million investment there, I don't think they're looking at it realistically.
Reading the Spectator today, and certainly the numbers are staggering, the impact on the economy if horse racing goes away. But when you read the stories of the breeders who are not breeding, there is now a year of foals who have not been bred because they're in limbo, they're on hold. They don't know what Minister McMeekin is coming back with, and they don't know, frankly, what the Cabinet's going to say about Minister McMeekin's proposals. If they do not change track, there will be a crisis in the horse racing industry. And Flamborough Downs, in my estimation, can't possibly avoid what's going to happen.
Again, that's within the provincial jurisdiction, and one that the horse race industry is going to have to work with the province. My referendum concept would have protected them at least until 2014 to put a transition plan in place. Dalton wants this thing done yesterday. So as of March, it's done. And it is done. I think everyone sees the writing on the wall, unfortunately, unless there's an election called before then. If that's the case, there might be some breathing room. But the referendum is part of the reason for my referendum, over and above the democratic reason, was to try to protect the horse race industry, but also give us some opportunity to discuss this issue as a city, as we did in 1997, to engage support. That's not going to happen. So what I see the landscape now is, let's work on whether or not we want a full-fledged casino. I do, and I want it at Flamborough. So in essence, that $4.5 million, or even more potentially, will be retained within the Flamborough site.
Hypothetically, and I know you hate hypotheticals, but if there is no Flamborough Downs, if Great Canadian Gaming pulls up stakes, should Hamilton be prepared with a plan B with potential sites for a casino, knowing that there is no time for a referendum, knowing that it will only come down to any surveys or polls that you conduct individually as councillors? It'll be word of mouth, it'll be letters to the editor. Do we not need to have a plan B, knowing that one of those important groups that are currently moving into downtown Hamilton have another dream in their eyes?
They don't, though. That's my whole point, is that we don't know that. What we know is that they have a $100 million investment in Flamborough. We've now deduced our position. We have a position. Our position is we want a Flamborough location. Now, do we want a full-fledged casino? Because we already have the slots. So in essence, we've made our decision. It's not even up for debate anymore. So what we need to do is close off the notwithstanding component, focus in on what the decision was, and the decision is that unanimously a Flamborough casino was endorsed. Unanimously. No other site was discussed. So the question isn't where should the casino be? The question is, should we even have a casino? Because at present we only have slots.
If the Mercantis and partners come to the city of Hamilton and say, hypothetically, we're going to redo the Connaught, or we're going to build a 40-story hotel with a casino in downtown Hamilton at one of 5 places we're looking, what's the city of Hamilton's response?
Our preference is Flamborough, so look for a site in Flamborough and put a bid in. At the end of the day, most people that look at downtown as
I just can't pin you down on that one.
Well, but most people that look at downtown as even an option are not looking at it in an intelligent way. What killed the downtown? Ask yourself that question. It was urban sprawl. So why would we even consider any development that takes away from prime land that just exasperates urban sprawl? Once we take away that land that can't be developed to try to bring people living in the core again, we can't reverse that. So in essence, we're repeating the mistakes of the Jackson Squares of the past. Because you look at what a casino offers. A casino offers self-sustaining entertainment. It's like a downtown within a downtown. And people are comparing Brantford. I worked in Brantford, as you probably are aware. And I was an addictions counselor by trade in Brantford when that casino arrived. People are saying, oh, the downtown in Brantford has boomed since. That's BS. They went through 20 years of hell. And the only thing they did do is they took some of the money that they've actually made from that casino, and they reinvested it in housing for Laurier University. And they started demolishing buildings and redeveloping it with the money they're getting from the casino. But there was no direct correlation between the activity at the casino and the revitalization of the core. That's just bull. And people that suggest that just obviously have their head up their butt.
We've got about 2 minutes left.
So
we should move into Ward 4. What's going on in Ward 4? You just had a great event on Ottawa Street with the food trucks again.
Yes.
Very successful.
We just won
3 times. Yes, just won an award.
National award.
So yourself and Councillor Merulla, who will be our guest in 2 weeks, are very proud of that. I saw your tweets the other day about that award for the Ottawa Street BIA. What else is going on in Ward 4 right now?
As you know, Doug, we're going through a significant renaissance with hundreds of millions of dollars of reinvestment, not only from the private sector, but public and infrastructure. We have the City Motor Hotel that's finally coming to an end very soon, where we take possession. We'll be demolishing it and developing a mixed use of residential, commercial with public space, as well as transportation hub. Just recently, there was approval for more residential units on Main and Kenilworth across from the Perkins Center, which is fabulous. The Center Mall is continuing to develop. We have major department stores. Walmart's opening up. The Brick will be opening up in a short time, as well as Marshalls.
The Brick was coming. That's also excellent. Yes.
Marshalls is moving in. So we're going through an incredible commercial and infrastructure redevelopment in the East End. The pedestrian bridge over to QEW, recently the stats came back very successful. During the peak summer months, over 200 people a day were utilizing it.
Yes.
Connecting Ward 4 to the waterfront, which we all know is a beautiful waterfront.
The biking community loves it.
Right, and the trails associated with that. So over and above the infrastructure, the private investment, as well as the public investment, things are going really well. Property values are increasing dramatically, which increases people's wealth and equity, which is something I'm very proud of and try to emphasize on a regular basis. So things are moving quite well, and we're going to continue to put people first and work on basics rather than these pie-in-the-sky type of initiatives that seem to distract us every once in a while, whether they be stadiums or casinos or what have you.
All right, we've got less than a minute. Something else that was breaking today, it was in the spec, and then it was on a radio show, and Councillor Ferguson saying, you know, I think we may have put the stadium in the wrong spot. In the very beginning, Sam Merulla wasn't for the Pan American Games, but your comments, because it's about to be unveiled. We've got 30 seconds.
Right. Simply put, Councillor Ferguson should have been asking those questions when I did back in 2007, when no one seemed to want to listen.
Very good. I finally got him to time, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Councillor Sam Merulla.
Thank you, sir.
Pleasure. That is the Council edition for Wednesday, October the 3rd. We return in 2 weeks with Ward 3 Councillor Bernie Morelli. I'm Doug Farraway. Thank you for watching.
We could have gone on forever. Actually,